Hey, how you doing? This is Gina Versa. It's another episode of Serving Up Comics. Today we're talking, I guess, the last Venom movie, maybe. I don't know. But I guess to talk about Venom: The Last Dance, we have friend of the show and occasional guest host now too, Jack Godwin from that '90s Spider-Man show. How you doing, Jack?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm just fresh off watching your guys' Halloween live show, which was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and now to talk about the Venom movies, which I guess I was just say less fun, but they are fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Question mark.
yeah, like your background there, when he
Uh-huh.
dunks in a water tank of lobsters in that first
Yeah.
movie. What's
Oh
not
yeah.
to love about
hmm
Eddie Brock's Venom?
I'm pretty sure that was a Tom Hardy decision as well. Like
I think so, a
I
hundred
think I
percent.
remember reading that they had to reset and return to the scene the next day because they were like, "Oh, Tom wants to get in the tank,
Mm-hmm.
so we're gonna have to sort everything out so that that can happen." They're
Mm-hmm.
shut down for the day and then come back tomorrow, and then he does that, and kind of worth it.
Mm-hmm. It's a great scene. I love that. It's
Mhm.
like Tom Hardy is just doing Buster Keaton in these movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
remember. I think before it came out, he was saying. Before the first one came out, he was saying, I'm kind of doing Eddie Brock as like a mix of kind of Woody Allen and Conor McGregor." And I remember thinking, what the hell is he talking about? And then you watch it and you're like, I guess so.
Yeah, I get
I
it.
guess he actually did that.
Yeah, the only thing I still, and it's like three movies in, is like I don't get his voice. It's like supposed to be like a New York accent
Hmm.
or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of, I guess is this, I was going to say this the beginning of Tom Hardy's cavalcade of voices.
Hmm.
But no, he had Bane, but that
Bane.
was maybe more of an anomaly at that point.
Hmm.
Uh, but then yeah, no Venom, and then yeah, now every time he turns up, he's doing a new voice.
Yeah, Bike Riders. He had
Yeah,
a
yeah,
excellent voice in that. Yeah.
yeah. A totally different tone movie than
Yeah.
The Last Dance.
Hmm. Yeah. What a great actor. Love him.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jack, it's been a second since you've been on this show. Um, are
Mm.
you reading any comic books? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. I go through periods where I kind of like binge read a lot, and then I won't read for a little while, and I'll come back. The current like the comic that's currently running, we've talked about Ultimate Spider-Man
Oh yeah.
before,
Yeah.
which I don't feel like I don't have any more to say about it. It's still good.
Yeah.
But I do want to shout out the current run of Ultimates.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm not actually sure. I can't remember what the name of the writer
Oh, Jonathan
is.
Hickman. No,
No,
wait, no, it's not. No, it's
it's
I could look it up for you.
I'm gonna grab it here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's something Camp, I remember. Denise Camp
Oh, yeah, okay.
or Denny Camp. I don't know how to say it,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that took me by surprise. Someone on my my podcast Discord mentioned it being good, and I thought, oh, I think I read the first issue, and I was like, it's pretty interesting, but I don't need to like get every issue. Maybe I'll just catch up on Marvel Unlimited or something
Uh-huh.
in the future. But I bought the second issue, and wow, that series is really good.
Yeah.
It's really well paced. I recommend people check out because they're kind of every issue is like introducing a new Avenger,
Hmm.
and then they're doing the alternate reality Avenger, and every single one has been like really compelling so far.
Hmm.
Um, Especially the one they did on Doom. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
we spoke about that
Yes.
issue.
Reed
Uh,
Richards as Doctor Doom, but it's
yeah,
also Like he gets tortured by the Maker, who's the evil Reed
Mhm.
from the original Ultimate Universe, and this new Ultimate Universe, Reed Richards is like a good Doctor Doom, and he just completely fails the space flight. It's really cool. It's really interesting. I love that.
Yeah. And that story, you get all his background and they're kind of jumping through time.
Hmm.
Similar kind of like to like maybe how the famous like chapter from Watchmen with Dr. Manhattan when they're cutting around time. So it
Oh
was
yeah,
just like really, really well paced. Yeah, so
yeah.
I do recommend that series. That's been really good. And I think the last issue they like introduced the new Hawkeye who's like indigenous, like anti-corporate,
Yeah.
like terrorist sort of, and that was really cool.
Well, I was gonna say it's like the opposite of the Mark Millar Ultimates because that one is such a
Oh yeah.
conservative, like
Hmm.
imperialistic comic,
Yeah,
and this one's like an anarchist. It's like
a hundred
anarch.
percent.
Yeah.
Yeah, because part of that issue is the pairing is that the person who goes to recruit him is Captain America. The
Hmm.
Captain America of Mark Miller's Ultimates was like, jingoistic,
Yeah.
basically a fascist.
Hmm. He hated
And
France.
yeah.
He,
What was the line? He points
oh,
to
it's
the A
like,
on his forehead.
do you think this A stands for France? And it's
Yeah.
like, that's
Mhm.
so dumb. He supported the invasion of Iraq too, I
Right. Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
It was like
Uh,
Mark Miller's like was taking out all his like anger towards types of Americans he didn't like and
mhm.
putting that on
Yeah.
Captain America.
It's also, yeah, it's also,
This one is
yeah.
the opposite, right? He's the
Hmm.
one like he's having a showdown with someone who has every reason to not listen to Captain America, and then actually like being like, no, let's listen, let's hear them out,
Yeah.
let's see what their deal is.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's been good. I've been reading, I'm a little behind, but been reading as many issues as I can. And out of all the Ultimate lines, because there's Black Panther, X-Men, I guess there's going to be Wolverine soon, Spider-Man, now the Ultimates. These two seem like the best, though I hear the other two are good. But yeah, I guess definitely check that out, huh?
Yeah. I've also been reading uh actually Venom,
Hmm.
uh which they switched writers and I'm trying to think who the new writer is because it was Al
Uh,
Ewing for a bit,
oh,
right?
okay.
Uh
Yeah.
and and I really enjoyed that. It was very strange. There was like doing a lot of time travel, um and uh sort of Eddie Brock encountering his like different futures,
Okay.
and it's been very complicated.
Hmm.
But at the same time, that in the present, it's his son is now the new
Villain.
Venom.
Yeah.
Um, so that was really interesting because I was just gonna check it out because I thought I'd probably stop reading once Donny Cates was done with his run.
Yeah.
Um, but I've been enjoying this one, and then the writer changed, and I can't remember the name of the new writer, but it's still good. Yeah. So I need
Yeah.
to catch up on it because I think I say new writer. I'm
Hmm.
behind enough that I think they've started from issue one again,
Yeah. Yeah.
like in the last few months, and I haven't. I'm still, a year behind.
Hmm. Isn't Eddie Carnage too?
I think that's the new thing.
Okay.
I mean, it's part of my issue with a lot of Marvel comics now is that you kind of stop paying attention for like 6 months, and it's
Hmm.
like the whole status quo has changed again.
Yeah. Entirely.
And so I'm kind of like, oh, I'm kind of digging what's going on with Venom now, but he's going to be Carnage in a few months. Okay, it kind of
Yeah.
like makes me want to read less because decisions don't stick around for very long.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Comics are really interesting because it's just like just completely either goes back to the status quo or just they'll try something out for like an extended amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think other than that, I just want to do a shout out to something that probably doesn't need being shout out, but I've been reading, going back to the start and reading Jonathan Hickman's run on Fantastic Four.
Ooh, that's a good
Uh,
one.
and I've read a couple of issues here and there from it before, but just going getting the trades for it, and yeah, it's just excellent. Like, every issue is just like, you know, just a great sci-fi tale.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I love Hickman. Yeah, his Fantastic Four run is, amazing. That and Avengers are up there for me
Yeah.
with his, yeah, great
Hmm.
writer. But I guess speaking of, I guess great writing. The first Venom movie has great writing. Um, but yeah, what have been your thoughts? I guess kind of going into talking about Venom.
Hmm.
Um, what has been your thoughts on just like the Venom as just like a solo movie character? Because he's been like a solo character, I guess, in the comics, but in these current ones, he's just by himself. There is no Peter Parker. He's just a symbiote, you know?
Hmm. I I mean, I would have never called myself a Venom fan.
Hmm.
Um, I think the Donny Cates comic, which a lot from this movie, it draws from that. Um, I hope he got paid.
Yeah, I hope
Um,
so. That was a little concerning. He didn't even
yeah,
know. He didn't
yeah,
know that Noel was in the movie. Yeah.
yeah, it's the worst. But yeah, no. Other than that, I haven't really liked Venom that much in the comics. And
Hmm.
the stuff I did like, I like the very early stuff. The original Lethal Protector series is good.
Yeah.
Um, I like him as a Spider-Man villain.
Uh-huh.
Um, a lot of his solo comics I don't enjoy.
Hmm.
And I think like a lot of people don't think that he should begin as a solo character.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot away from the character. So I was definitely not on board when it launched. And it almost kind of pays off in a weird way just because it's also quite different from Eddie Brock and Venom in the comics,
Hmm.
which is fine for me because I wasn't so much of a purist, like you're ruining my favorite character. So
Yeah.
when Tom Hardy kind of did something really strange with it, um, well, I definitely didn't like it the first time, but the second watch, it kind of clicked a little bit.
Hmm.
And I just started taking it more as like, you know, you got to get on board with the idea that this Eddie Brock is not meant to be really heroic. But he's not really like a bad guy either. He's just kind of a screw up, and he is
Yeah.
kind of like stumbling through his life.
Hmm. World's worst reporter.
Yeah,
World's
he's
worst best and worst reporter.
Yeah, he's truly that's some of the ridiculous things is when he does get gigs as a reporter and you're
Uh,
thinking how is he getting to interview Cletus Cassidy in the second one?
yeah.
It's very strange, but there's a lot to like about it for that reason.
Hmm.
But yeah, like the concept of a solo movie is still just like it for me, it robs everything that's interesting about Venom as a character because you got to have the origin with Spider-Man. It's got to
Yeah.
start off in vengeance. And what Donny Cates did that was interesting later in the comics was um, make it this long arc about Eddie Brock going from a villain uh, who was obsessed with Spider-Man to an anti-hero,
Hmm.
and then eventually just becoming like a good man and a good dad,
Hmm.
but also accepting that he makes mistakes and nothing he does ever goes right.
Yeah.
And they did that like, the slow, this like sort of slow burn, and that worked really well. Uh, but you kind of need that starting point. Um, so yeah, solo movie, terrible idea, but like what
Hmm.
we got was so strange that
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm glad we got it, but
Hmm.
I've had some fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just the fact like Tom Hardy is like a character actor just in these movies, just kind of goofing it up. Um, seen him play off, Carnage and different things. I guess have been pretty funny. So if like I can't imagine Topher Grace doing this, because
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's a completely different vibe, and um, I think this was also a time when it kind of like Tom Hardy kind of almost revealed himself as like being an actor who's kind of like closer to Nicolas Cage than
Hmm.
maybe we expected,
Yeah.
because he's a really good subtle actor, and he just was like, you know what, I don't actually like doing that much because he keeps taking these wild swings
Hmm.
and doing strange voices and like being very big performances, and he is funny. Like I think maybe the worst thing about the Venom movies is sometimes I'm like, I wish he had better material to be uh to be working with, because I think there could have been some like really genuine like amazing comedy in these movies, and instead it kind of a lot of the time it's pretty poor, but he's kind of elevating it a little bit just from the intensity of his
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it's just like, yeah, this like these could have been like melodramatic, like I guess the other Sony movies like Morbius or Madam Web, which you saw because we had a podcast on that.
Oh
I
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he really like I guess like elevates it for sure. And then in some alternate universe, I guess the spinoff or the Venom solo movie was supposed to be a spinoff of Spider-Man 3 at some point with Avi Arad, the world's
Mm.
craziest producer or one of the craziest ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no idea how that could have worked, because I know there was an original thing in Venom 3 where they no, Venom 3 in Spider-Man 3
Mhm.
initially they were going to show Eddie Brock's skeleton
Yeah.
when he died, I think, and then they cut that, but he's still blown up,
Yeah, he's dead.
isn't he?
Yeah, he's
He's
dead.
pretty dead.
At the end of that movie, he's yeah.
Yeah, but I suppose maybe they would have tried the symbiote going to someone else, but I don't know. I mean, nothing is off the table for Sony. Like they found all these weird ways of getting into doing these movies.
Yeah.
I know no one was asking for a Madam Web movie, but they
No.
made sure it happened.
Yeah. We still have Craven coming out later in the year.
Oh God, yeah.
The
That
year
one,
it
yeah.
delayed the year of Craven for you.
The Euro Craven is eternal. It
That's
keeps
true.
coming.
Hmm.
Man, yeah, 'cause the trailer played before Venom 3, so
Yeah.
yeah, I can't. It looks really bad.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have, you know, uh, she was what was the line she's studying? Uh,
Oh, spider. My mom was studying spiders in the Amazon rainforest
yeah, when she died,
when she died. Yeah.
and it doesn't have anything like that.
No.
It doesn't have like any kind of like strange kind of B
Hmm.
movie energy. It
Yeah.
it looks just kind of like very like bland. And then the Rhino is in it
The Rhino.
and
Yep.
looks really bad.
Chameleon too, I guess. His brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, so I'm like, I guess there's some stuff going on in it. There's enough for a movie, but
Hmm.
again, that's another one of like I think actually out of all the Spider-Man villains, Venom and Craven are probably the ones that need Spider-Man the most.
Yeah. That they
Because
have a
like,
movie. Yeah.
because one of them is someone obsessed with hunting Spider-Man as the ultimate prey, and the other one is like kind of a dark reflection of
Hmm.
Spider-Man that then becomes its own thing afterwards.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like, yeah, it would make more sense to have like a Doctor Octopus movie or Green Goblin movie,
Yeah,
Big
or something.
Wheel,
Big
even.
Wheel. Yeah. An actual character, Big Wheel.
Uh,
He's real.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. They decided to make it with Tom Hardy because it's been around for like 7 years now. We got a whole Sonyverse. out of it. And I don't know. I think like Let There Be Carnage, I think was really fun, at least
Hmm.
as well as a sequel. It really improved on the first one. Didn't feel as long because that first one was like 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think yeah, Let There Be Carnage is an interesting one. It's got some touches in it that I really appreciated that I had to remind myself of because I'd forgotten a lot about the movie, but when I was going back and looking over it, I realized that yeah, there was things like the like how the Carnage symbiote doesn't is like parasitic, like
Mhm.
doesn't have the same relationship as Eddie and Venom. Like his symbiote moves differently. There's just like a few things here and there that that just like was interesting. Like I think like maybe like touches from Circus as a director, maybe
Yeah.
just kind of made it a bit interesting. Again, like I broken record, but like the original Carnage comic storyline is very compelling because
Mhm.
it's Spider-Man and Venom have to team up.
Yeah.
And that's a fun team up of two people who hate each other in order to deal with this psychotic third character.
Mhm.
And I think like they did miss a beat again by not going that direction.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, there was some stuff going on in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I mean, like, and then also too, I guess before we go into spoiler talk for The Last Dance, I think like also Andy Serkis like really made that movie like fun and interesting, and he was kind of missed in this one, I would say.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was much going on from like a directorial point of view
No.
in this one.
Yeah. The Last Dance, which I guess we'll go into it. I already asked you before recording, but you don't seem like you were a fan of this one, or you're just like okay with it, or you just don't know.
It's a hard one because like it feels like a few different movies jammed together.
Hmm.
And I'm like, on record as being someone who like I don't really find the Venom symbiote funny.
Yeah.
Like the voice that Hardy is doing with it and that dement. You know what? It's weird. It's the issue I think I have is that I feel like there needs to be a straight man
Hmm. Okay.
somewhere, and it's like Tom Hardy is like up here with his performance, and then well he's there with his performance,
Yeah.
and then the symbiote is very goofy
Who he also
and
plays.
joking and singing and
Yeah.
all this stuff, and I think one of them need to be brought down a bit because maybe it'll be more funny if someone is like being the Woody Allen uh kind of neurotic character
Hmm.
and having to deal with something that's like demonic and kind of a
Yeah.
bit scary and unsettling. Uh, but like the Venom is like kind of adorable and like goofy and
Hmm.
just like a jokester, and then like a little bit like too violent, obviously. But it's just a weird dynamic. But saying that, in this film, that was the stuff that worked for me. And even when it didn't, sometimes like the joke wouldn't be funny, but they would do it like five times, and then the fifth time,
Yeah.
it's I don't know, I start like losing oxygen to my brain or something, and I start
Okay.
laughing.
Yeah.
But then it's cutting from that to like these scenes in a lab. It was it Area 51
Yeah.
technically.
Area 51, or in the movie, I guess full on spoilers, Area 55. But
Right,
it's
yeah.
just that was like just going that out there, like that was such a random thing to just introduce in this, like the last movie,
Yeah.
Area 51, and then it's like not Area 51, the secret Area 51 that we have
Right.
here. Yeah.
Which is confusing as well because like if you're gonna like there's like numerous organizations in the comics that were
Hmm.
formed in order to fight Venom. Just pick one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go like Life Foundation or the
Life
Jury or
Foundation.
something.
Yeah. I thought they were going to do the jury for the
Hmm.
longest time, and then they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh but yeah, so it's those scenes were oh man, they were rough going because there's a lot of them just walking around like walk and talk exposition, but then dropping in these like jokes where you can feel like these scenes were very dull, and then they gave they gave it to some writers. They said you got to punch this up, you got to put
Yeah.
some jokes in here. So they start making like small talk to
Hmm.
each other, and it none of it
No.
works. But
I
some of it is like really bad to the level that it became kind of entertaining.
yeah.
Like there's some bad line readings and stuff that were kind of entertaining for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, also, yeah, I mean, I love like the symbiote just commenting on the movie, like riffing the movie as it's happening, as its own riff tracks. But yeah, just some of it felt like really like I don't know, like the family. Like I like some aspects of it, like the hippie family, but then there's other stuff where it's just like it kind of goes on a little too long. And
I
then
tell you
also,
what, the best example of almost the opposite of what you're saying,
Mhm.
but going on too long. The scene with the family when they are singing. What was it? What were they singing? Were they singing David Bowie? Yeah,
Yeah, ground control to Major Tom,
yeah.
Space Odyssey.
And when they started doing that, I was like, oh, this is the worst. And then a minute in of like Tom Hardy looking in like extreme discomfort whilst Reese Ifans sings David Bowie at him, and then in his head, Venom is singing, and then it keeps going. It's like it feels like a 10-minute scene. It's not, but it
Yeah,
feels like a long scene, and then it becomes kind of melancholic and like
sad. Yeah,
yeah, and sad. And I was like, this is so strange, but like, I appreciated they were sticking with their guns a little. And that's when it worked a bit better for me. Because at other times it would be like a scene like that was ridiculous, but you're given like 2 minutes and it's like, let's cut back to see what Chiwetel Ejiofor is doing. And the movie becomes bland again.
yeah,
And I'm like, you
yeah,
gotta like, when they spent a little bit of time just like, let's just let Tom Hardy do something weird.
yeah. I
That's
wish.
when it was working.
Yeah, I wish it had more Tom Hardy centric because it's like it feels like it lingers so much on like the Area 51 scientist, like the Juno Temple character, where she has like a mysterious backstory too. I felt was like really out of place.
The Juno, yeah, that stuff was so strange. That was like when I can't believe they did that much of a setup, and it only really makes sense at the end. And I like with the biggest like air quotes in the world make sense.
Yeah,
Um,
she's just a
but
symbiote.
you just realize why they gave her like a bit of an origin story of being struck by lightning,
Hmm.
in order basically to introduce a character that is another like kind of Sony like throwing something at the wall, kind of like, well, like Avi Arad will get his toy, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
We can sell a toy,
God,
and if we're really lucky, maybe everyone will love this character, and then they can get a solo movie, and then, and then we'll be raking it
yeah.
in. You can see that conversation happening,
Hmm.
and then as you're watching it, you're like, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I read the Marvel. There's an MCU book, just kind of unauthorized, but it's like Avi Arad is so toy centric. It's like it's his brain is like cracked out on just making toys out of every character.
Yeah, you can totally see that. And that I mean, there's quite a few things with like that later in the film when a series of
Symbiote,
symbiotes,
symbiotes.
symbiotes.
Yeah, because they had to redub what's her name, Jenny Slate, saying it
Yeah.
wrong in that first movie. It's not
Mhm.
symbiote, it's symbiote.
I think that the original sin that makes this confusing, I think, is actually Spider-Man the animated series,
Oh yeah,
which of course I have a podcast on,
yes, yeah.
humble plug.
Hmm.
Um, but I made a supercut once of just every time they said that word in the show, and they say it like four different pronunciations. And I think that
Oh
was the
man.
first time anyone was hearing it,
Hmm.
outside of I suppose that who created it, like David Michelinie,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Like maybe he had an idea, but obviously it's not like a real word.
No.
Uh, symbiotic or
Yeah, it's based off.
symbiotic is a word, but
Yeah.
it would be pronounced differently. But
Hmm.
then yeah, so when the movie came out, then they did it and then just dubbed over because everyone got mad. And they
Yeah.
were like, we had to test the audience. So like Reddit
Yeah.
said that's not how you say this made up word.
So
So
the one thing to worry about in those movies, I guess. Yeah.
but yeah, no, they introduce quite a few of them in this movie. And my first thought when I was watching them is like I could totally see being like a young kid and being like after you watch it talking about which one was your favorite.
Hmm.
I can that kind of working. I can see it from an angle, and otherwise I can see Avi Arad like rubbing his hands together,
Hmm.
like quick. This gets them in. Doesn't really matter what they look like. This one has big fists. This one runs fast. This one does
Yeah.
this.
They're all actual characters too.
Are they?
Yeah.
Because I know there's the I thought like honestly like I don't think their designs were like the colors weren't strongly different enough for me to recognize them other than Scream,
Hmm.
who's recognizable, and then Toxin. Um,
Yeah.
but Toxin is very different. Uh,
Yeah. Then
I actually
others.
really like Toxin, by the way. Which I didn't expect.
Hmm.
He doesn't get a lot
Not really, no.
to do, but I thought he looked cool. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
he looks cooler than he does in the
Design wise.
comics,
Yeah.
actually.
Design wise. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had like a whole different like
Color scheme.
yeah, and a whole different vibe. He was very slow, and
Hmm.
he was kind of like I guess the apocalyptic like vision giver. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
very foreboding and saying mysterious things, and then leaving the movie. Um,
Never to be seen again.
yeah, but he looked cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
What did you think of the symbiote family, the Shazam
the
symbiote
Shazam.
family?
Yeah. It was I don't know. I was like I liked it when the movie went crazy, and that was like one of the things where it's
Mhm.
like when all the symbiotes show up and start just wrecking havoc. I really enjoyed this movie. So I was like all in with that. That was cool for me, just seeing all these weird dumb symbiotes. And like correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like all these '90s designs too, where it's like the most unhinged era of comics. So you
Can
know,
you remember any of the names? Because I
uh,
think because Riot was in the first one, right?
yeah,
And he
Riot,
was in a comic.
so,
Slasher, I know is one,
Lasher,
and Scream.
Scream. Trying to remember like the lightning one. That was probably Scream.
Hmm.
Uh, this Toxin.
Yeah,
I can't remember all their names because they didn't
we
even say the names in the movie.
no, yeah, they were dead too
You just know their
fast. I
characters. Yeah.
think. Be like, "Hi, I'm Lasher." Gets incinerated. But no, there's I did enjoy that part of like how some of them just got wiped out.
Yeah.
But no, I mean there are a lot of symbiotes to draw from.
Yeah.
We did a joke thing of on our
Oh yeah,
podcast
I
of
remember that.
the is it a Disturbed song
Or symbiote.
or a symbiote? And Henry got like I think he got like under half like just under half of them right,
Hmm.
because they sound exactly the same.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, they really
Yeah.
do. Yeah. I wonder if Disturbed like had any involvement with Venom or anything with their movies.
I mean, a lot of this stuff, especially the second movie, does feel like it's like that kind of like cover art,
Hmm.
that kind of vibe of kind of very like edgy, cool 90s kind of thing, which is actually interesting because as I was watching it, that was the main thing I was thinking about was like, is that the era we're in now, but for superhero movies?
Maybe because it's right before
Because
the crash.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense. But also it's kind of like they've started adapting more of that stuff with the Venom movies and things like that. But then you've also got like good and bad. A lot of the good ones are like kind of very grounded adult deconstructions, like stuff like the Batman, where
Hmm.
it's like uh the Riddler is beating a man to death,
Yeah.
in this first scene. It's like very much like it feels like that, the boom of the graphic novel and like, the Dark Knight Returns and
Hmm.
I think maybe they tried to have that happen earlier with like Batman v Superman, but it wasn't going all the way. And
Yeah.
now that not everything is working, they're actually maybe committing to a few more adult, like, dark stories. And then, adapting more stuff from the 90s that was very excessive as well. Because it's not all, some of it is very cool and, interesting stuff. And then some of it is just like, what is the coolest symbiote we can put on screen and like very there's a lot of bad stuff in the
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where we're at now, which is curious because I'm like, well, then I guess that's what happens right before you reboot everything.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, they probably will do for
Hmm.
Marvel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess more, I mean, maybe like less multiverse, like Venom says. Like
Oh,
he's,
yeah,
yeah.
honestly, like the multiverse as a concept was is never something I've ever been a fan of in the comics.
Mm,
It's only interesting if I like going to a different world and staying there.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't need to see. I mean, of it, the one exception to the rule really is like the Spider-Verse movies,
Oh yeah. Yeah, of course.
which are great, but like they're I think they also would have been great if they were not about the multiverse, It was that's
Yeah.
not, the strength of
It's
it is
not.
like is the writing and the animation and stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind if they stopped milking that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, it was because I was gonna say you could see Noel in Spider-Man 4, I guess.
I think, man, I remember seeing that as a rumor, and then watching this movie, and I'm like, oh no, they're actually
They're
trying.
serious. Yeah, they're serious about it.
I I really hope. Honestly, you know what? If the next Spider-Man movie is actually like the trailer comes up and that is the
Mhm.
premise,
Yeah.
I think I'm just not gonna see it. I think that might be the line for me because I do not like symbiote stuff that much in the first place. But the King in Black storyline, which is what all the null stuff in the
Hmm.
comics was leading to,
Love it. Yeah.
it
Love that
was
stuff.
good, but it was only good. The story, like what was actually happening, isn't very interesting to me. Like
Hmm.
the planet covered in symbiotes and just a bunch of monsters around. It's not super interesting to me. It's kind of like a less interesting version of Limbo,
Yeah.
where like the demons are coming out. But it's it's not very interesting, but they made it interesting because Donny Case is a good writer, and the art, Ryan Stegman art was amazing.
Hmm.
And they made it. It was very centered around Eddie's journey, and that's why it worked really well. And it had a great sense of humor as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like the MCU version of this, I just there's no way in hell that it's going to be good. And and
Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, I got like I know a little bit of what you think of Null in this movie,
Hmm.
but you weren't like a huge fan of him, right?
Yeah. 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 Not, I mean, for me, like, I like the character, like, as a concept. I mean, even in the comics, like, because I read the crossover. Yeah. I mean, he's just like, I don't know. He's just like a world-ending threat, symbiote god, which is like interesting. I mean, he's not like my favorite villain. So I don't know. I don't know what we'll do it. What we'll see in Spider-Man 4. Because I guess spoilers. I don't know if like Tom Hardy will be back as Venom. Like I guess
Hmm.
if he could cross over, he wanted to fight Tom Holland, right?
Well, I tell you what, the no one's ever truly dead, and especially with symbiotes because uh, there's a lot of bullshit,
Hmm.
frankly,
Yeah.
in the comics with Carnage. Carnage has died so many
Oh yeah.
times.
Survives like a bomb,
Yeah,
space
he was
ripped in
ripped in
half
half by the Sentry and
by the
thrown into the
Sentry.
sun.
Just.
uh, but yeah, no, he's a big thing. I think like there's something about like the Codex. You can kind of come
Sure.
back from the
Sure.
Codex. And they
Well,
introduced that in this movie, so I'm kind of like, there'll be some way that
well,
they
I
can
thought
do it.
I thought the symbiote was attached to the cockroach at the very end, after credit scene.
Right. Okay. I honestly I was a little bit confused by that. I didn't
Yeah.
I thought they were I thought it was the was it the Scream symbiote
Yeah.
thing or something, and I was like, "Oh, are you doing that?" But it would make more sense if it's Venom.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, because he does have the line about the cockroach earlier in the movie. So I
right.
thought, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think that yeah, they're definitely leaving the doors open.
yeah.
But saying that, like I think honestly, like as much as I love Tom Hardy, I think if you were gonna have a Venom storyline with Tom Holland, I think the most sensible thing to do would be to introduce a do the symbiote story with Tom Holland
Hmm.
with no Venom, at
Yeah.
least for one movie,
Yeah.
and then in if you have to do a Venom, do whatever Tom Holland's universe Eddie Brock is, and just do a do a different one. Maybe this one is like more of a horror vibe, and it's all about like a creepy stalker. Like there's a bunch of different ways you can go with it.
Hmm.
I'm not really interested in Tom Hardy and Tom Holland meeting because the reason that that meeting would be interesting is because of the history of the characters. And if they don't know each other,
Yeah.
then
Or just have any reason to interact or
right,
anything.
then
Yeah.
it just becomes like, two action figures like holding them next to each other and just being
Yeah.
like, isn't it cool they're stood next to each other? And I'm like, I don't, not anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe a few years ago.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I need more now.
Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting story if they interact because, yeah, I can't see a way for like any sort of relationship between them.
But have they said that the Spider-Man 4 is coming after Secret Wars? Am I remembering that right or
Yeah,
not?
I think it's before. I want to say it's before.
Because that would change things as well. Because there's the idea that they could do what the original Secret Wars, and
Oh yeah,
and Peter gets his symbiote from Battleworld.
hmm,
There could be some
could
version of
be.
that.
Yeah,
But yeah, not if this movie's happening before. Uh,
yeah,
but I don't know. Like it's just interesting because it's just like I think uh, it seems like most people are in the bag for like the end of No Way Home. You kind of are back to basics, kind of more New York centric street level Spider-Man. And so to go to go from that to uh like the God of the symbiotes
yeah.
and a
Well then,
crossover with Tom Hardy
hmm,
feels like the wrong direction. But again, like people really like this movie. I
yeah,
really like Tom Hardy, so I know that like a lot of my feelings about it are not reflective of general
sure,
audiences.
yeah, yeah. No, they. I mean, I think like it resonates with people. I mean, it's likable, and then it's just like, I don't know, the like the people like Venom too. On the average, like the average dude. Like they love
Mhm.
Venom. They have all the, sweaters and um like merch with Venom. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I mean Venom: The Last Dance has done well, right? But not.
Yeah, I think it's doing well. I mean, probably
Mhm.
better than like certain comic book movies this year, like Joker,
Yeah, no matter
Madam
web.
Web, Madam Web.
Yeah,
The only one that did amazing was like Deadpool and Wolverine.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's hard to say because I think I heard a lot of negativity before I saw this of like people who liked the other Venom movies saying that this one was a downgrade,
Hmm.
which I don't know if I really understand that because part of me I mean you've said we've said before about these movies are they're kind of a bit they're operating in schlock territory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so when something like this comes out and people start saying it's is bad and it's like a huge step down. I kind of want to push back a little bit and be like, okay, well, we were never dealing with like high art here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not like, the first one was like The Dark Knight or something.
No, and I think there's some stuff about it that has become like normalized through this series. Like there's the tearful sort of goodbye towards the end of this
Hmm.
movie with a floating Tom Hardy in a floating like head.
Yeah.
And I just thought if you went back 10 years and showed this clip,
Uh-huh.
so like you just come out of The Dark Knight Rises and then you watch this and it's like, one day like Tom Hardy will be acting his ass off opposite this,
Hmm.
and this will be in the third Venom movie, and that's where we're at. It would seem like an SNL parody.
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
it would seem ridiculous, and I can't fault them for doubling down on earnestly being like, wow, people seem to really like this relationship. People really like it, so
Hmm.
let's just do more of it. And I think almost they should have spent more time towards that because I think like the actual plot stuff in this movie is not particularly interesting. I think like the null stuff is very just like he's the Thanos role
Yes,
of
yeah.
like he's in the background. I'll see you in a later movie, but I'm gonna send some of my lieutenants just to show how powerful I am
Hmm.
while I sit in the chair.
Yeah,
Uh,
just yeah.
and then but then as a general audience, you're like, this doesn't mean anything to me, like
Hmm.
so I don't it's they could have really axed most of that stuff. The xenophage stuff, like
Yeah.
the
That's
monsters.
cool.
It's a weird thing because at first I was like really not into it. So it reminded me of like the monsters in Infinity War that are like in Wakanda.
I forgot what they're called.
Yeah, they're like another like just generic monster
Hmm.
um to fight in lieu of a natural villain being there. Um, but there were a couple of touches here and there with the CG, like the way it rebuilds itself when it's been damaged was kind
Hmm.
of interesting, and
Yeah.
like eating people and like spraying out of the back of his head.
Hmm.
There's a couple of things here and there where I was like, yeah, it's not like a movie without its entertainments.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see, or, it's cool to see a comic book movie that has good visual effects. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Although like I think like the symbiotes always look so much better when they're not on a person.
Hmm. Yeah.
Whenever they show them in a test tube
Like a
or something, I'm always
horse.
like, that looks incredible. I really like the way they look. And then when a person is walking around, I still think Venom
Yeah.
himself looks pretty terrible and
Hmm.
kind of like gross.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit. A little bit. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Any other things for that you liked about Venom: The Last Dance?
Ooh, I tell you what, had it. I was told in advance that there's a scene where Venom dances with Mrs. Chow.
Yeah.
So I knew that was going to happen, but I did enjoy that because it was just one of those moments where you're just like, what is going on? Like they're really committing to this, especially at that point in the story because he's actively endangering himself by uh, doing this dance number. So that was kind of a highlight for me. Um, so I think you can have a good time with this movie. And I think I've said that about the other movies as well. I think it's a movie if you don't take very seriously, you watch it with a group of friends, you're maybe intoxicated in some form, you can have a better time.
Yeah.
But also, I'm very much not the audience for this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, kind of, yeah. I would say the same as well. Yeah. It's just all, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the good sort of, I guess, wrap up of Venom. I mean,
Hmm.
not too much more to say. Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, just kind of any before we let you go, any like plugs, promotions you want to say?
Oh, I have quite a few because I have dealt with symbiotes an unfortunate amount of times on my podcast,
Hmm.
which is that 90s Spider-Man show.
Good plug.
Me and Henry have are slowly going through Spider-Man the animated series, which is the 90s cartoon, and there are some Venom episodes, some Carnage episodes in there. So we've talked about that. We've also talked about the comics. There's we so if you want the comic background that's in there, we do an episode all about Carnage and all his very many crazy adventures. And then on our Patreon, we have some more stuff like some reviews of Venom 1 and Venom 2, where we
Yeah.
just do a deep dive and chat some shit about those movies. So yeah, and then if you want to follow me, I'm on Blue Sky, JALEXG on all the things, including Letterboxd,
Mhm.
and also No Context Spider-Man
Oh
on
yeah, that's fun.
Instagram. I'm mostly posting on Instagram now, but I'm
Yeah.
planning to post a bit more on Threads and Blue Sky in the future.
Yeah.
Uh,
Before we was Twitter forever.
yes, yes,
Solid.
I'm still undecided on whether I'm going to start posting again on Twitter, but it doesn't it doesn't grow more appealing,
No,
you
no,
know.
it doesn't.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I think that's it for me.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, thanks, Jack, for joining us. It's always good to talk to you. You're always a good guest.
Thanks for
Definitely.
having me.
Yeah, no, of course. It's good to talk all these Sony movies that are coincidentally about Marvel. We keep dragging you to see. So it's all good. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, G9892, at the Waffle Press, at the Waffle Press on Twitter, at the Waffle Press Podcast on Instagram. We're on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We've been professionally unprofessional.